What if everything you believe about death is wrong? Imagine this. Your phone dies, and you plug it back in. It's not gone. It just needed a charge. Now consider the possibility that your body works the same way. That when it dies, the real you, the part that's been watching your whole life unfold like a movie, keeps going. Sounds strange, right? But that's exactly what a number of spiritual teachers, like Sri Anandamayi Ma, have said for centuries. You were never born, and you will never die. Let's break that down. You live your whole life thinking you are your body, your name, your job, your memories. But ask yourself, when you remember being 5 years old, do you feel like a different person now? The body's changed, sure. Your thoughts and experiences have changed. But something constant has been there the whole time, watching. That's your awareness. And according to this perspective, that's the real you. It's not the character you play. It's the part of you that watches the whole story. Now here's the kicker. Death, as we think of it, the end of your body, is just like taking off an old jacket. You don't mourn the jacket. You put on a new one, or none at all. The awareness, the you behind the scenes, isn't affected by whether the body is on or off. Still feel like a stretch? Think of dreams. You can be anyone in a dream. You feel things, you react, you even fear for your life. But then you wake up, and none of it was actually you. That same idea applies here. The ego, the sense of me, is like the dream character. It seems real, but it's temporary. The awareness behind it, that's the only thing that's been constant, and it doesn't end when the dream does. And what happens when you start living with that in mind? You stop being afraid, not in a reckless way, but in a grounded, peaceful way. You stop chasing perfection or fearing failure. You stop identifying with roles, titles, or expectations. You start experiencing life more directly. You become more present, because if you're not racing toward the end, there's no rush. There's only now. So the next time someone says, "You only live once," maybe you'll pause and smile. Because maybe, just maybe, you've been living for a lot longer than you think, and you're not even close to done. But here's something we don't often consider. If the real you never dies, then why are we so obsessed with protecting the version of ourselves that does? Think about how much of your life is spent defending your image, your job title, your social media profile, your reputation, your opinions. We cling to these things like they define us, but they're just temporary forms, like outfits you wear to different events. If you wouldn't cry over retiring a pair of jeans, why panic when your role or status changes? This insight isn't just philosophical, it's practical. When you stop identifying with every passing thought or emotion, you also stop being controlled by them. Someone cuts you off in traffic? You're annoyed, but the awareness behind the annoyance doesn't flinch. You lose your job. The fear is real, but something deeper in you knows it's just another page turning. We think self-awareness comes from piling on more knowledge, but true self-awareness often comes from letting go, dropping the layers of identity you've been trained to carry. It's not about becoming something greater. It's about recognizing you've always been something greater, even when you were just brushing your teeth or scrolling your phone. The next time you're overwhelmed or anxious, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask instead, "Who is aware of this feeling right now?" That question alone can flip the script. It brings you back to the observer, the one who's not in the storm, but watching it from a distance. This shift in perspective won't remove all pain or problems, but it changes your relationship to them. Life still happens, but you're no longer at the mercy of every wave. You realize you're the ocean, and the ocean doesn't fear a ripple. Here's another way to look at it. You've probably changed phones a few times over the years. Each one had different apps, photos, and messages. But your number, the way people reach you, stayed the same. The body, thoughts, and roles, those are like the phone. The real you, the awareness, is like the number. It carries on, even if the device changes. Now think about how much effort we put into customizing that phone. Wallpapers, ringtones, playlists. We do the same with our lives. We try to perfect our identities, make them look a certain way, feel a certain way, impress a certain audience. But if the phone breaks, none of that is you. It's just formatting. The more seriously you take the character, the more you suffer when the script changes. Life is constantly rewriting itself. New jobs, relationships, wins, losses. If you think the character is all you are, then every plot twist feels like a threat. But if you know you're the observer, not the character, then the story becomes less about survival and more about exploration. This isn't just some abstract idea. It's something you can use. Let's say you're feeling overwhelmed, like everything's out of control. Instead of spiraling into, "Why is this happening to me?" Pause. Ask, who is noticing this? The moment you do that, you create space, not because the problem disappears, but because you remember you're not in the chaos, you're witnessing it. That space, that's where peace lives. Another way this shows up in life. We often wait for big life events to justify presents. Vacations, weddings, birthdays. But what if every moment was worth your full attention? Not just the highlights. What if your morning coffee, your commute, your quiet moments alone weren't just filler, but the real content? When you're living from awareness, there's no such thing as a throwaway moment. Every scene matters. So instead of asking, what's the point of it all? Start asking, am I awake to what's happening now? Because when you live from awareness, you stop needing life to go a certain way. You just show up and experience it fully. That's the shift. And it doesn't require any new belief, just noticing what's always been here. You, the one who's aware. So what happens when you really start to live from this space of awareness? You stop trying to win at life like it's some kind of scoreboard. That voice in your head saying, I should be further ahead by now, starts to quiet down. Why? Because when you're not identifying with the character, there's no race to win. There's just the scene you're in right now. You don't have to fix every thought or emotion. You just have to stop thinking they're you. Most of our stress comes from believing every passing worry, fear, or frustration is a reflection of who we are. But what if they're just weather patterns, like rain or wind? They show up, they pass, and they don't define the sky. You're not the forecast. You're the space it happens in. Imagine you're driving, and suddenly, another driver cuts you off. Normally, your immediate reaction might be a surge of anger. Maybe you honk your horn, or even yell. Your ego kicks in, making it personal. They disrespected me, they're a bad driver, etc. But when you're grounded in awareness, you see it differently. The other driver's action is just that, an action. It's their passing thought, their momentary lapse in judgment or rush, meeting your passing form, your presence on the road. You don't ignore what happened, but you don't let that momentary incident define your entire drive or ruin your mood. You simply observe it, let it pass, and continue on your way. You understand that their actions don't dictate your value or your peace of mind. The more you recognize your awareness, the more compassion naturally shows up. When you're not caught up in your own ego, you start to see that everyone else is often caught in theirs too. You stop feeling the need to constantly prove you're right or that someone else is wrong. Instead, you find yourself listening more, judging less, and simply meeting people where they are, without all the extra baggage. And that's a superpower in daily life. Imagine being stuck in a difficult conversation with a friend, but instead of getting defensive or emotional, you remain calm and present. Or perhaps you're facing a big decision, feeling uncertain about the future, but you're not consumed by fear. This is what it means to live from awareness. You don't become emotionless. Instead, you become more real, more steady, able to navigate life's challenges without being completely thrown off course. You don't find peace by trying to rearrange the entire world to your liking. You find peace by remembering who you truly are, the calm, expansive awareness, no matter what chaos or calm the world around you is experiencing. It's not about withdrawing from life or becoming passive. It's about showing up fully, with presence, rather than panic. When you remember that you are awareness itself, the inevitable ups and downs of life don't knock you off balance. You ride them, you feel them, but you aren't consumed by them. That's not detachment. It's clarity. And once you experience that clarity, even for a brief moment, it becomes easier to return to it. You stop chasing external things for validation and start making choices that truly align with who you are. That's a profoundly different way of living, and it's available to you right now, exactly as you are. Let's take this one step further. If you're not the thoughts, the emotions, or the body, then what's left? What's left is you, the part that's aware of all of it. And that's not just a nice idea. It's something you can actually notice right now. Try this. Pay attention to your next thought. Just wait for it to show up. And there it is. You saw it come and go. So if you can observe your thoughts, you can't be your thoughts. That space, the one that noticed the thought, that's where the real you is. Most of your stress doesn't come from what's happening. It comes from believing the story your mind tells about what's happening. The story that says, this shouldn't be happening, or I'm not doing enough, or what if this goes wrong? When you believe every story, you suffer. When you watch the story from awareness, you see it for what it is, just a string of words, just a habit. And once you see it, you can choose whether to follow it or not. This also changes how you deal with others. You stop expecting people to behave in a way that protects your ego. Instead, you meet them as they are. You stop needing people to agree with your identity, and you just connect with them as fellow humans trying to figure it out. Even relationships start to feel different. Instead of looking for someone to complete you or confirm your worth, you start sharing from wholeness, not need. That creates a deeper kind of connection, one that doesn't collapse when things get hard. Now here's something that catches people off guard. Freedom doesn't always feel good at first. Why? Because when you stop clinging to your old identity, your mind panics. It says, if I'm not this person I've been pretending to be, then who am I? That moment feels like losing control, but it's actually the first step toward real freedom. So don't confuse discomfort with danger. Growth is rarely comfortable, but it's how you stretch into something real. And you don't have to get it all at once. Start with small moments. When you're anxious, pause and ask, what am I believing right now? When you feel stuck, ask, who is noticing this feeling? These questions pull you out of the character and back into the role of the witness. That's how awareness becomes a habit, not by escaping life, but by showing up to it more clearly. You don't need a retreat in the mountains or a 30-day cleanse. You just need to remember, the real you is already here, always watching, always present, always free. Let's bring this even closer to everyday life. Once you realize that you are awareness, not the body, not the mind, you stop needing life to feel perfect all the time. You don't need every situation to go your way to feel okay. That's real stability. That's inner strength. And you don't have to meditate on a mountaintop to access it. You can access it in traffic, during a meeting, or while doing the dishes. Peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from no longer being controlled by it. Most people spend their lives reacting. One bad comment ruins their whole day. One delay, and their mind spins into frustration. But the moment you know you're the awareness watching all this play out, you get your power back. You get to respond, not just react. You stay grounded even when things around you feel shaky. Living from awareness doesn't make you passive. It makes you clear. You still speak up. You still make decisions. You still care deeply, but you're no longer driven by fear or ego. You act from a grounded place, not a triggered one. You stop performing for approval. You stop chasing certainty. You trust that what you are, this awareness, can handle life as it unfolds. You begin to live in a more honest way. You say no when you mean no. You rest when you're tired. You speak your truth without needing to be right. You don't shrink to make others comfortable. And you don't inflate to feel worthy. You're just present, available, and real. That's rare. That's powerful. One final insight for now. Everything you're searching for through achievement, relationships, success, or control is already here, beneath all the noise. Peace? It's here in this moment, when you stop resisting it. Clarity? It arises when you pause and pay attention. Freedom? It's available the moment you stop identifying with the voice in your head and return to the awareness behind it. The search ends where you are. You don't have to become someone else. You don't have to reach some perfect version of you. You only need to remember who's been here the whole time, quietly noticing it all. That's you. And once you realize that, really realize it, nothing is ever quite the same again. You were never lost. You just forgot to look where you already are. You don't need to become more spiritual, more disciplined, more successful, or more anything to reach awareness. You only need to notice it. It's not in the next book, course, or breakthrough. It's in the pause between thoughts, in the silence after the noise, in the simple moment where you stop trying and just see. And here's a final, simple truth. Life is not something happening to you. Life is something happening in you, not in your body or mind, but in the awareness that's been watching everything, quietly, patiently. That awareness has never been afraid, never been incomplete, and never been broken. It doesn't need fixing. It just needs remembering. You'll still have bills. You'll still get cut off in traffic. People will still misunderstand you. But you'll move through it all differently. Not immune, but intact, centered, rooted. Because you'll know, this is not all of me. And when you forget, because you will, you just begin again. That's not failure. That's the practice, coming back to what's always been here. So now the question isn't, how do I become more awake? The better question is, what am I holding on to that makes me forget I already am? Drop it. Breathe. Notice what remains. That, right there, is you. Still, aware, free. Always has been.